All right. I welcome all of you to Module 2 of this Educational Leadership Technology course. My name is A.Kaburi, and today we are looking at our Module 2, which is focusing on national frameworks in EdTech plans and standards. And with this, my presentation, I'll be looking at the National Educational Technology Plan for the US, and I'll be contextualizing it in the system of educational technology leadership or educational technology plan for Ghana Education Service. So, by way of our outline, so we shall be looking at the introduction of uh, educational technology leadership or educational technology plan for Ghana, how it is handled in its current state, or the strategy that is being articulated in the National Science and Technology and Innovation Policy for the nation of Ghana. We shall be looking at the key features of this particular uh, educational technology plan or policy that has been strategized for Ghana. And we shall also be doing comparative analysis of the technology leadership plan for Ghana and that of the one that has been compiled for the United States, which is usually called the NET. And then we shall be looking at the National Education Technology Plan as well into a bit detail. And I will give my recommendations and, of course, uh, show the references that have helped me to come out with this particular presentation. So let's dive deep into it. Now, so the Ghana has by way of introduction, Ghana's current educational technology strategy is articulated in its National Science, Technology, and Innovation Policy, which is what we call the NEP. And this was formulated in 2017. The latest one was done also in between the 2024 to 2025. And the key partners of this particular framework or this particular policy was done between the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. They also use governmental agencies, universities, as well as external partners. All these were the stakeholders that were involved in the planning of this. And the vision or the plan encompasses a period between, it's supposed to start from 2017 to 2026, which should be next year. And like I said, it was something that was done collaboratively with diverse or broad stakeholder consultation, which I mentioned earlier. And those are the government agencies, the ministry. The main ministries were the Ministry of Education, of course, and the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation. And they also involve universities because they are going to help in the implementation of this particular policy. And as far as all the other external partners, such as the World Bank and so on and so forth. The goal of this particular framework or policy was for STEM transformation, making sure that the STEM that is in its current form is transformed for the betterment of the skills and knowledge of individuals within the country for them to be able to meet the demanding needs of the future. Also, for digital equity, that was also another reason why, or another goal, why this particular framework was also formulated. And to talk of the next goal was the teacher development. So we know that technology keeps advancing day in, day out. Technology keeps advancing, and teachers who are the main people that will help in the implementation of every curriculum that involves teaching and learning are also supposed to be abreast with these particular skills for the future. So teacher development was not left out. It's also one of the goals for the establishment of this particular Technology Innovation Policy in 2017. Now, let's look at the key features. So there was the key features of this Ghana's educational tech plan was one talking about the framework or the time frames for the framework to be implemented, that the schedule, the participants of course, the development process, as well as the goals or the themes. And when we look at the uh, uh, the time frame, there was medium-term plans. There were also long-term plans. And when we look at the medium-term plans, they anticipated between 5 to 10 years for this implementation. And when they want to look at it in the long term, then they were looking at 10 years and above, which to me, I even see it as not enough, even though that is what has been that was what was proposed. I think that is not enough, but that's what was proposed. Now, that is why I think if you look at the initial slide that we talked about, the policy was formulated in 2017 and it's supposed to end in 2026. 2026. So if I'm correct, then we are looking at between that's about 9 years. Yeah, that's about 9 years, which is not even up to the 10 years. So I think that with this, but the time frame for this uh, EdTech plan for Ghana, I'm sure there will definitely be an extension, but of course, they will do some analysis and evaluation before other decisions are taken. Now, with the participant, we've already talked about the participant as the key feature of the Ghana's educational technology plan. And some of the key features that we've talked about is the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation, which we are refer to as the MST. And we also have Ghana Education Service also coming into it. And NGOs as well. I also talked about World Bank and UNICEF. All these are major stakeholders that are contributing massively to the development of this Ghana's tech plan for the future. Now, with the development process, there is a cross-sectional expert working groups leveraging previous policy iterations, stakeholder workshop, and international frameworks like the one that is being used in the US. So they are doing broader consultations. They are bringing in stakeholders. They are doing workshops, and as well as analyzing what is being used in developed countries like the United States for them to be used as examples to also develop the ones that will be used in Ghana. And last but not the least, as well, we talking about the goals as one of the major key features of this EdTech plan for Ghana. And the goals, like we mentioned also briefly, was to boost access and also proficiency in the STEM field, and also empowering digital learning, restructure our ICT and science teacher training. Like I said earlier on, teachers are the main implementers of the curriculum, and so if we are looking at having a particular EdTech plan that is supposed to be run for over 10 years, then we cannot leave teachers out. They must also be trained with the adequate skills and knowledge in this ICT and science field for them to be able to help in the implementation. We also want to reduce inequalities in the access and the outcomes, and also promote innovation. So we want teachers and stakeholders who are involved in this implementation to have innovative minds, innovative skills to be able to come out with adequate uh, skills or plans or strategies that they will use in teaching and learning for us to be able to achieve the goals of the EdTech plan. To also strengthen our research and development in education, with technology advancing, with AI coming into play, and then all sort of new uh, platforms, softwares coming into play, teachers and our people or stakeholders who are involved in this tech plan, there must be research going into it as to know which direction is going, which direction is needed for the future and for now. for our education to be strengthened in the long run. Now, let's looking at the uh, educational technology plan, which is the NETP. We see that both Ghana and the NEP for the US were focused on closing digital divides. So they all want to make sure that they are abreast with time. People are being trained as to what is needed for the future and not just going on with what has been happening or going on with the outmoded ways or the outmoded strategies that I'm using. But we want to get abreast with time so that people get used to what is needed for the future. With Ghana's plan, it was emphasizing on rural access, and there was low-cost solutions, universal device access, and solar-powered remote learning. Example was a project that was initiated in Ghana, which was making the Ghanaian girls great again, making the Ghanaian Girls Great project. So in the subsequent slides, we'll see that there were even programs that were held on the traditional media in Ghana, trying to make sure that this goes down onto the student, this goes down to the people, not just only girls, but in general. But the project was so focusing on girls. So active learning and authentic context. And Ghana's strategy also it aligns with the NEP focus on engaging learners in real-world problem-solving scenarios through STEM clinics, TVET reforms, and interactive digital platform that uh, uh, will help this particular in this particular field. Now, so like we said, uh, they both Ghana's educational EdTech plan and the NIP are all focusing on just similar stuff. And now we want to move beyond just abstract teaching and learning, but onto real world problem solving. And to do this, we can never do away with educational technology leadership. We can never do away with educational technology plans. And that's why Ghana initiated a TVET, that is technology vocational education training reforms, in which we usually refer to as the TVET. So there were reforms as part of this EdTech plan in Ghana to make sure that students or people don't just go through the educational curricula or the educational ladder, but they are being trained, transformed with adequate skills that will give them the capacity to be real world problem solvers when they come out of the day. In teacher training, when we want to compare the EdTech plan with Ghana's the Ghana's educational technology plan together with the NEP, we will see that both plans are also prioritizing teacher professional development. Ghana's plan was to address the pedagogical as well as digital content mastery, and the NEP was also echoing or emphasizing on digital design divide and educator capacity, which are similar to each other. And with that, we are strengthening the teaching capacity. We are bringing out innovative and skillful teachers who also come out being strong and have adequate knowledge to also transfer that to teach learners. And at the end of the day, we are having a more advanced human resource. Now, with access and accountability, there were in Ghana, the Ghana includes a new mechanism for digital tracking of learning outcomes, as well as early intervention. That's comparable to the call for robust real-time learning analytics of the NEP. So Ghana's one was to track the learning outcomes at the early stages, and that of the NEP also looks at it in the form of real-world active learning analytics, which at the end of the day all talks about assessment, not leaving the assessment for the end, but then it should be done simultaneously as the learners are learning to be able to address whatever challenges come in between before they come to the end of a module or a learning process. So this was what I was talking about. So this was a program that was organized in one of the traditional medias in Ghana, which was run in 20, even in this year, 2025. It's a city, we call it's a city FM program that was being organized. And this was part of the EdTech plan, trying to bring in more women, or the project that was focused on women trying to bring their mind onto technology, trying to bring their mind onto ICT, especially those that are in the teaching fraternity, to make sure that they are abreast with what is happening in the world, what skills are needed for teaching and learning, what they need to get themselves acquainted with, and what will help them in their classroom as well as the teaching and learning. And we cannot talk, we cannot, we have looked at what they all do together. We can also not dispute the fact that there are also places where they misalign or there was some kind of divergence. And for the divergence or the misalignment, we have seen that there were funding gaps and infrastructure disparities. If we look at the need for the US and for Ghana, um, definitely Ghana will have there were funding challenges because they are looking at funding from external sources, which I don't think that was the case for the United States. Except the same applies to infrastructure. Even though this is a plan that has been formulated to run from uh, 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 2017 to uh, uh, 2026, there were infrastructure challenges for its implementation, which is still there. And we also saw the misalignment or divergence in teacher ICT readiness and disparities. There were also places where Ghana's content was local content. It was local, and they also tried to infuse in the local language support for to make sure that it goes down to the local people. Ghana's own was so focused on rural-urban variations, which I think that it would be a different in terms of the US, which was cutting across all the states and all cities. Now, so this is also a comparative table, just trying to show how the different areas are. So with digital access, we could see that for Ghana's plan was rural or urban gaps, but the US NEP is focused on universal access, which is different. With authentic learning, Ghana was focusing on STEM and TVET. NEP is focusing on problem-based solving, and that is that. With teacher training, it's uneven growing in Ghana's plan, and the US NEP is universal. And with assessment systems, Ghana's plan is focused on intervention focused, and the US is real-time analytics. Now, let's look at what I think there are some recommendations. So I think that Ghana should prioritize development for more digital science content tailored to local languages. And will help to support inclusive and cultural relevance in their learning experience. And secondly, I think that there should be an acceleration in teacher ICT training to establish partnership for continuous program that will raise teacher coverage from the 18% to at least 50% in the public schools. That will also help to leverage the learning and mentorship models. And thirdly, we have to increase the funding. Funding has been a problem for the implementation of most of these policies in Ghana, and I think the government has to increase the funding to help in the smooth run and the smooth implementation. Number four of my recommendation is that we should expand the local content or the languages for the development of more digital science content that will tailor to help people or the local people to also have an understanding of what is going on, because in one way or the other, they are also serving as stakeholders. And lastly, but not the least of my recommendations, is that we have to foster innovation and industry partnership. We should expand collaboration so that people do have access to universities and local entrepreneurs, which will help to bring the practical aspect of what we want to implement in the classroom to bear. All right. Yeah, so Thank you very much. These are my references that I used for this particular model. My name is Raymond Kaburi, and I've looked at this educational technology network plan for the US, and I contextualize it with what is happening in Ghana. And I'm ready and happy to have your constructive feedback and for us to discuss in the discussion forum. Thank you very much again for making time to watch my video. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your interactions. And see you again in our third model. Cheers. Go Tigers.